Welcome to our webinar. This is Cannabis in Context. We are doing our Minnesota Cannabis Micro Meso Masterclass. I'm your host. I'm Dr. Lucas McCann. I'm the CSO of CannDelta. Let's get started. A little bit about your public speaker today. My name's Dr. Lucas McCann. I'm the CSO of CannDelta. We're a regulatory and scientific cannabis consulting firm, and we have helped launch over 300 businesses since 2018. My background is in medicinal organic chemistry. I bring expertise in cannabis product commercialization, production and testing, licensing, operations, and all aspects of the industry. I'm a former federal government employee and an experienced small business consultant. So I work very closely with startups, helping them to launch new businesses, get the licenses they need, and get open as quickly as possible as we reduce what we refer to in the industry as the burn, the time when money starts coming out of the bank account, all the way up until the time you conduct your first transaction and start generating an ROI. Our company, CannDelta, is a team of business strategists, regulatory experts, scientists, effectively consultants who specialize in the cannabis and also the psychedelic space. We work with prospective licensees from license applications to full design build-out guidance, all the way to providing operations support and even marketing services for anything from managing their social media accounts, developing their website, to helping them increase and boost their sales and revenue. In the period that we've been in business for 7, almost 8 years now, we've helped launch over 350 cannabis businesses across the country as well as internationally. Most of these are small businesses, but we've worked with any size company up to publicly traded cannabis companies. And we've been featured in a few publications such as Forbes, High Times, MJ Biz, and a few others mentioned here. Our clients span the industry, all the vertically integrated aspects of the industry we've worked in, from cultivation to manufacturing, setting up CPG lines and canning lines for beverage manufacturers, to distributors, wholesalers, laboratory testing, and lab setup. We've also done a plethora of retail dispensaries in our time working in the cannabis industry. We've got a lot of these different kinds of sites highlighted here, everything from the production side to the retail side of the cannabis industry. We've seen it, we've done it. Let's jump context into Minnesota. In summer of 2024, 2/3 of the applicants who were social equity verified applicants in the summer lottery had their applications rejected without an opportunity to cure, largely because of insufficient applications, insufficient documentation, perhaps even some misrepresentation. The application process in Minnesota is open now, and it is one of the most difficult applications that we've seen in the country, with a very high barrier to entry to get into that round. But let's talk about some of the important things required to sort of get into that lottery round or to be able to apply for one of the uncapped licenses. So in the application history, like I said, 2/3 of those applications, or approximately 1,100, almost 1,200 applications, were rejected for incomplete applications. Applicants failed to complete the application process or didn't provide the necessary documentation, or the documentation they did provide didn't adequately describe how they were planning to achieve regulatory compliance and meet the requirements under the Act and the corresponding regulations. Some of those were for multiple submissions. Applicants had submitted multiple applications under different license types or multiple applications for the same license type beyond what is allowed. And concealed ownership, so not disclosing true parties of interest or investors, are some of the main reasons now why those applications were rejected. This brought on some legal challenges, and here we are. We are in the middle of an application portal for Minnesota that is open until March, meaning that now is the time to get into the ground floor of Minnesota's adult use industry. Very exciting times. So just a very quick introduction to Minnesota's cannabis industry. We can start with legalization. Legalization happened for adult use cannabis on May 30th of 2023, and our social equity verification window closed on January 30th, 2025. So we do get folks calling our office all the time telling us how they would qualify for social equity verification. If they did not complete the verification process by January 30th of 25. Unfortunately, that window is closed, that ship has sailed, and they'll have to proceed into the application process without that additional chance through the social equity verification if they failed to apply. The regulatory framework is implemented by the Office of Cannabis Management. So Minnesota's cannabis industry is the one that is regulated by the Office of Cannabis Management. They oversee the industry. They'll be reviewing the applications, they'll be granting the licenses, and they'll have compliance and enforcement officers who will be completing the final inspections prior to operations and ensuring that those businesses meet the requirements going forward, which are largely laid out in the applications that are being accepted today. The economic projections in Minnesota are set to be approximately $1.5 billion by 2029 in terms of the market share for Minnesota's cannabis market, creating an estimated 30,000 jobs. So this is going to be a very booming industry, excellent for Minnesota's economy, and just what Minnesota needed. One, to help supply the public with a legal, safe, regulated source of cannabis, and two, to help spark the economy and economic growth, putting all that tax revenue back into potential things like infrastructure improvement for hospitals, roadways, and public schools. So currently, the current status is commercial cannabis sales in Minnesota are set to begin. I would say probably end of 2025 is a realistic timeline, or Q1 of 2026, with the OCM finalizing regulations and preparing to issue business licenses as we speak. The forecasted market size for Minnesota's industry is displayed in this graph, showing a very large increase beginning in 2025, plateauing off at about $1.4 billion in 2029. Which really is a huge and considerable increase from the market share, brought on almost entirely by the implementation of an adult use or recreational market. We've been somewhat bullish on these numbers here to try and give an accurate representation of what this is actually going to look like, but still a huge opportunity to get into the ground floor in what is effectively a billion-dollar industry. Our licensing timeline, just to pull up, we had our social equity verification window open and close in January. In February, the license application opens, the license application portal opens, and then that stays open until March 14th, and the license application window closes on that date. When it will open again, we actually don't know. If it'll open at all, when it'll open at all, what that will look like. It all depends on how this rollout goes for the current application window. And then we're expecting that the lottery and the application reviews for the uncapped licenses will effectively begin right away, well, for the micro businesses, but that the lottery is tentatively set somewhere between May and June of this year. And hopefully they stay the course on that timeline. In terms of the license availability, there are only so many licenses for the bulk of the license types that are available. So today we're going to be focusing on the micro and the meso license type. The micro is no limit on the number of social equity applicants that will be accepted, or the total number of applicants. There's effectively no limit on that license type. Not to say that there's no advantage to being social equity and applying for a micro business. There is. The meso business has a license cap of 50 for social equity and 50 for the general application round. Cultivator, 25 for both categories. Manufacturer, 12, which I would argue is one of the most important parts of the industry in terms of safe production of products. Luckily, the micro business is vertically integrated, so folks who are cultivating with a micro business license or even a meso business license can actually manufacture, package, and transform a lot of their own products from biomass. Retailer is set to 75. That's a license that allows applicants to open up to 5 stores. Luckily, the micro and the meso license can also participate in the retail component of the industry. Wholesalers, testing facilities, and delivery services are effectively not capped, along with the event organizers, which will be available until summer of 2025. This is the cannabis business timeline. CannDelta assists prospective applicants with every step here listed on this timeline, from licensing, which is step 1, applying for the license, ensuring you've got your business plans, your regulatory documentation, all of the attestations, cap tables, declarations that are required to show compliance or intended compliance with the cannabis regulations are at this stage. We want to ensure that applications are complete. However, they need to be succinct. There's only limited number of characters that are permitted in many of the fields for the application. So being able to succinctly address what the crux is that the regulator is looking for is going to be extremely important without having to overcommit from the regulatory side, because we do want to make good on the promises we make in our application into the actual facility that gets built out. So that's where a consultant can step in, help to ensure that we're meeting minimum levels of compliance, because compliance unfortunately sings in opposition to business profitability for any business. The more red tape you have, the harder it is to be profitable. Step 2 is heading over into the build-out phase. So with the license in hand, we'd recommend that folks seek out real estate and all the necessary approvals required from the municipality to be able to operate their intended business. With that, we'd also need to develop a compliant floor plan as part of the site master file, provide some recommendations on construction, build-out guidance, all the way down to the materials for all the contact surfaces that would be used in, for instance, a production facility. Linings, wall coverings, paints, epoxies, security systems, hardware to be used, even batch, track, and trace software that needs to be implemented in the facility. We help to guide our clients through that step based on what their business operations and business plan is intended to look like. So with this, clients need to effectively project manage their build-out, manage their vendors and materials, their security design, and pull in all the right people at the right times, which is something our company CannDelta assists clients with throughout the entire process. And then operations. This is where the fun begins. The OCM comes by for your final inspection, grants you the final license, and allows you to begin and commence your operations in the cannabis industry. So staffing, implementing your SOPs, your standard operating procedures for running your business smoothly and effectively, your training, and ensuring that as you run a compliant business, that it also remains scalable and most importantly, profitable. So being able to do that with some guidance is certainly an area where we shine. In terms of the licensing stage, there are several different kinds of components that make up a successful license application. Those include site feasibility assessment, municipal zoning and verification check, application assistance. That certainly comes in when we're working through a provisional license and we're looking to set up a compliant facility, looking for those approvals from the municipality. The regulatory business plan, security plan, the operations compliance plan, employee training, business cap table, those are all necessary components that go into an application. Now, important to draw notice to the difference between an investor business plan, one that would be used to gain investors to help attract attention to your business by forecasting and assessing the market share, versus a regulatory business plan, which largely looks at the intended operations and activities the business wants to conduct and assess who they'll be doing business with and what products they'll effectively be selling or what services they'll be rendering to the public. Standard operating procedures are important. They're an important component not just of operating the facility, but also for licensing the facility and licensing the operations as well. Ones that stick out certainly involve quality assurance, inventory control, so managing the amount of products, everything from massive biomass, seeds, usable cannabis products, final packaged products, all would fall under the inventory control. Storage, the storage conditions. In terms of managing inventory control, storage falls very much in line with that. Preventing diversion or even inversion of products to or from the illicit industry. And accounting and tax compliance, again, which is the main core at the issue of legalization, is surrounding tax compliance and verification. Taxes are unfortunately very high in the industry, but it's a driver for the industry. It is the incentive for government to legalize your business, to allow your business and to license your business surrounding that. So having a strong understanding of tax and compliance and accounting is paramount when setting up your cannabis business. We assist in compiling and evaluating all of those particulars by preparing disclosures, the attestations, the statements, the certifications that are required to operate the business, gathering and collecting the articles of incorporation, partnership agreements, as well as disclosing the proof of funding sources. All of that gets piled into the initial application and submitted for review by the OCM. Once the OCM decides to issue licenses, either by way of a lottery, but also ensuring that the applications that have been submitted have passed muster, they will issue effectively a provisional or a conditional license, one that says, we intend to issue a license However, we recognize that you might not have a facility that we've inspected, so please at this time, start your fundraising, find a compliant facility, seek the necessary approvals, and begin your build-out. As that build-out is happening throughout the period that you're holding your conditional license, that is when everything that we have made promise for in the application really comes to life. It's a very exciting time. And that conditional license is made into a full final annual license at the time that the OCM comes by to inspect the facility to ensure that what you've built in the real world is a compliant version of the application. That you have the physical security measures in place, that they are active and recording at the time when they conduct that inspection in such a way that the regulations have stipulated, that you have a track and trace software that you've implemented, that you have SOPs that are ready to go, ready to be implemented, that have been reviewed by your quality team. At that time, they'll issue your full license and allow you to begin conducting cannabis activities, which basically means you can do business. You can conduct your first transaction, your first sale at a retail store, or start planting your seeds and clones and start cultivating. For this, they need all the updated business location particulars, the security plans, and that is benchmarked by the final inspection. At that time, they issue your final license or declare that they intend to issue your final license shortly thereafter. Going back to the business plan, we have the two sets of business plans that we made mention, the investor business deck and the regulatory business deck. So the OCM is not looking for a fully investor-friendly business plan to highlight the executive profiles of the team and what expertise they bring to the business and see what is forecasted in terms of a return on investment in the 5, 10, or 15-year marks, right? You would use this when looking to gain investors, and this is also a very, very important document as a business owner. You need to be very strategic. So having an investor business plan is very, very important. However, it's not necessarily required to obtain your license, right? It's assumed that as a startup, you would have crunched the numbers, looked at how much money it's actually going to take to launch your facility, what size facility you're going to need, and what the timeline will be until we end the burn and you start to gain and start to make a return on your investment. Okay, so this is very persuasive, market-focused, and profit-driven information presented in such a way to gain attention and garner investors. The regulatory business plan ensures compliance. It ensures that your business model aligns with what licenses you're actually looking to achieve. It focuses more on the security, the operations, and the community impact of the business, as well as having a strong understanding of your basic financials. So understanding who you're able to do business with, who you're able to market with, what you're able to market, who you're able to transact with. It is much more structured, technical, and compliance-driven. In the conversion phase, we will be updating all of the particulars that are listed here in the orange box, everything from our security design, regulatory business plan, all the way down to our certifications, our attestations, our disclosures. And it is understood that throughout the process of obtaining a provisional license or a conditional license to when you are issued your full final annual license, that there will be changes to your cap table. Right? Submitting an application largely on speculation for a lottery license, like a Mezzo license, means that you will probably gain a lot of attention once you are a license winner and are awarded that license. And as such, your cap table is likely to change. This is how we do fundraising in the industry, is we exchange equity, basically for promises of profit sharing, with capital with investors who are much more liquid, who believe in your business, believe in your investor pitch deck, your investor business plan, and are willing to invest in exchange for a piece of the company. Okay, that process of converting the conditional to the full is what we call effectively the conversion phase, right? And in this, we are acquiring property, we are gaining investors, we are assisting with design build guidance, and ensuring that all the systems are up and running when the time comes for the OCM final inspection. Some of the compliance for prospective applicants will include the following points. State oversight. The OCM will be able to inspect you, not just for your quote-unquote final inspection before you begin operations, but perhaps biannually, or perhaps as a condition of the renewal of your license. So ensuring that you have proper records, and that you're able to demonstrate logs and that you've committed to compliance is going to be paramount to ensuring that those inspections go smoothly. Tying directly into that is SOP requirements and SOP updating. Standard operating procedures are all the promises that you make effectively, not just to the inspectors, but also to your own business. And the forms and the records that are a part of those SOPs are record keeping, showing that you've demonstrably done the things that you've promised to do. You want SOPs that are succinct, that leave some room for artistic liberty, but also demonstrate compliance to the regulations, and those associated forms must be filled out as part of those inspections. So understanding how SOPs are living, breathing documents is going to be very, very important, but also ensuring that they're being reviewed, updated, and that the forms are being filled out. Seed to sale tracking is a software that ensures that all products in your facility are under strict inventory control. That is to say that there are no products leaving your facility and no product coming into your facility that's not from a declared source. Very important to ensure compliance to the regulations, and those records will be a very important part of your OCM inspections. Security compliance. Visual surveillance has to be maintained in your facility and has to be uninterrupted for the entire time that you are licensed. We need to have, for instance, things like an uninterrupted power supply, a UPS, and a backup power source in the event that there's an outage. And having uninterrupted surveillance could be an important part of the physical security component of your inspection or audit. Product testing. All the products, every lot, every batch that is being produced or that is being sold on the shelves must be subject to scrupulous analytical testing by a third-party analytical lab that is testing for elements like residual solvents, pesticides, heavy metals, cadmium, lead, arsenic, and mercury, as well as bacterial, yeast, mold, bacterial counts, microbials are an important part of those products to ensure that anything that's being consumed by the public is safe to be consumed. And finally, labor rules. Any company with 10 or more employees requires a labor peace agreement, ensuring that that's in place and respected. In terms of issues of non-compliance or observations from a regulator, there are a couple of things that could happen. There could be monetary fines, depending on sort of the occurrence, whether it's the first occurrence or maybe a third or fifth occurrence. That fine level could also scale with the number of occurrences that have happened, as well as the sort of the regulatory history that an entity has with the regulator. There could be lawsuits, and in some cases even criminal charges, right? Further to that, other consequences can include a recall on certain products if there are undeclared ingredients, tests that weren't accurate, or even as something as simple as a product being mislabeled. Recalls are very expensive and they can hurt reputation. So learning how to avoid them is very important to ensure that your business runs smoothly. They're also very expensive. Finally, as a final consequence, license revocation is always a possibility when working in an industry that requires a license to participate. This could be, for example, repeat violations, or depending on the nature of the observation made by the regulator, could even be a one-time issue leading to revocation. So if products violate regulations, they may be destroyed at the owner's expense, and court action can also occur for businesses which may be required to petition the court to recover seized goods. Retail registration. So state-level retail registration, the proposed location must be submitted to the Office of Cannabis Management. So when applying for a state license, we need to ensure compliance with state zoning and security requirements, but more specifically and more importantly is the local approvals for businesses, especially as it pertains to retail dispensaries for both the meso and the micro business. These local approvals, again, are very, very different depending on the municipality you're looking to work in. They must register with local government, that is the business owner, and they may have additional zoning restrictions, setback distance, limits on clustering. These are all additional regulations that municipalities can implement in their city, their township, their community, which will be different than if you go 50 miles another direction. So both of these approvals are required to be able to prepare a final inspection date with the OCM. In terms of local registration, the process involves contacting local government to ensure an understanding of specific registration procedures on both sides. There are many times when we work with local government on behalf of our clients in which the folks on the other end of the zoning department don't understand what cannabis means. Or they think that they've potentially have opted out when maybe they haven't of having cannabis businesses. Or they've opted out of retail, but don't understand that they can't opt out of production. So having a conversation with someone on the local government side is always step one in ensuring that both sides have a strong understanding of the regulations and the particulars for zoning that are specific to cannabis businesses, specifically cannabis retailers, is paramount. Step two is to prepare the required documents, so gather any necessary documents, including your state-issued micro-business license, business plans, Mezzobusiness license, whatever the case may be, to show proof of compliance and to obtain the proper local ordinances. Step three is to submit your local registration application. So complete and submit the local registration application as directed by your local government, pay applicable fees, undergo any inspections from the local authorities level to obtain a right to occupy or a certificate of occupancy, and then await approval after submission before commencing retail operations. So again, we still have to wait for that final inspection. To compare and contrast the micro and the Mezzobusiness license, the micro business has no lottery and has an uncapped number of licenses. Whereas the Mezzobusiness license, the applications, there is a lottery. It'll be awarded to 50 social equity applicants and 50 general applicants. Under the cultivation facility, you can have a cultivation area of up to 5,000 square feet of indoors or half an acre of outdoor cultivation space. The advantage to indoor is you get much more environmental control, outdoor, less environmental control, but you're effectively getting one harvest per season. The Mezzobusiness license allows for cultivation space of up to 15,000 square feet or a full acre of outdoor cultivation. And in terms of manufacturing, the capacity have a threefold increase from 10,000 pounds for a microbusiness to 30,000 pounds of cannabis biomass annually. Further to that, when we're looking at square footage required or footprint for these businesses, for someone who's looking to cultivate under a microbusiness license, even with 5,000 square foot indoor cultivation space, and again, that's canopy, not operation space, and canopy. So anything that has a leaf is considered to fall under that. That includes clone, veg, mothers, flower. All those rooms count towards that 5,000 square feet. The minimum footprint you should be looking at if you're looking to maximize that 5,000 square feet is somewhere between 10 and 12,000 square feet. So I was in a conversation the other day with a client who had a 30,000 square foot greenhouse, or 30,000 square foot warehouse, and they were thinking about maybe applying for a Mezzobusiness, but with 15,000 square feet to maximize that, it's a little bit tight. I convinced them to go down the microbusiness route because of the square footage required to be able to support a microbusiness. It's going to be much more than the 5,000 square feet highlighted here. It's triple that. The microbusiness license allows businesses to engage in all of the activities, not just a wide variety of activities. You're effectively 360 degrees completely vertically integrated. Cultivation is not a requirement for opening up a dispensary, so that's important to highlight, but it does provide a lot of flexibility. The option of having a farm gate retail store is very alluring for a lot of entrepreneurs. Or those who are looking to only open up one retail location can certainly do so when applying for the uncapped microbusiness license. These licenses are not distributed through a lottery system. So if your compliant application is submitted on time, on the first day, it'll effectively begin being reviewed immediately. This makes them a very, very accessible option for entrepreneurs who are looking for a sure-foot way into the industry. The license for microbusinesses also have an event organizer license, but no other cannabis or hemp licenses associated with them. And again, cultivation of 5,000 square feet, one retail dispensary, and can manufacture up to 10,000 pounds of cannabis biomass per year. In terms of the trade network, you can buy from other microbusinesses, mezzos, cultivators, manufacturers. You can sell to micros, mezzos, manufacturers, and retailers. You'll also be working very closely, if you're cultivating, with lab testers. Purchasable items can include immature plants, seeds, seedlings, clones, cannabis flower, and other biomass, lower potency hemp edibles, hemp-derived consumer products. Okay, finished final packaged goods are also part of that network. Okay, in terms of the transport with no endorsement required, a cannabis microbusiness may transport the following between its own facilities. So immature cannabis plants, seeds, seedlings, cannabis flower, cannabis biomass, cannabis products. So cannabis product is something in its final finished packaging, artificially derived cannabinoids, hemp plants, hemp parts, hemp concentrate, lower potency hemp edibles, and hemp-derived consumer products. And to participate as a transport, you must provide required information to the office per section 342.35 subdivision 2 and must comply with transportation regulations in section 342.36. The cultivation endorsement, small-scale cultivation, can package immature cannabis plants, seedlings, cannabis flower for sale to other licensed cannabis businesses, including retailers. So producing extraction and concentrations as an endorsement basically allows the cultivator to also manufacture cannabis concentrates and products of extraction, so distillates, vape pens, as a for instance. Production of customer products endorsement is a microbusiness that manufactures edible cannabis products or lower potency hemp products or hemp-derived consumer products. The retail operations endorsement allows you to open one cannabis retail store with a microbusiness license, and it's the best option for anyone who wants to open up a single dispensary. And of course, local government registration is required for all stores, and this license lets you open up a retail dispensary without requiring you to engage in other activities permitted by this license. So a microbusiness applicant that only wishes to open up a dispensary may do so with this license. Comparing that with the Mezzo license, they can engage in a variety of the activities, effectively all the same activities as a microbusiness license. However, unlike the microbusiness license, the Mezzo licenses are distributed through a lottery system. They are subject to a cap and making them more competitive to obtain. Further to that, they can open up to 3 retail dispensaries, and further to that, they can manufacture up to 30,000 pounds of cannabis annually in their larger 15,000 square foot canopy space. Their trade network is similar. They can buy from micros, other mesos, cultivators, and manufacturers. They can sell to micros, mesos, manufacturers, and retailers. On the cultivation side and manufacturing side, they'll work with testers, and they can purchase immature cannabis plants, seedlings, clones, cannabis flower and biomass, cannabis products, final finished products, lower potency hemp edibles, and hemp-derived consumer products. Transportation endorsement, again, must provide required information to the office per section 342.35 subdivision 2 and comply with the transportation regulations in 342.36 as in the micro. The cultivation endorsement again allows up to 15,000 square foot of indoor space, and they can package cannabis plants, seedlings, cannabis flower, and biomass for sale to other licensed cannabis businesses. Final packaged cannabis flower can go to retailers. If they want to add the endorsement for extraction and concentration, they can do that, which allows them to remove cannabinoids from the biomass as long as the proposed limits are being respected. They can add the production of customer products endorsement, which is a meso business that manufactures edible cannabis products, lower potency hemp products, or hemp-derived consumer products, provided they respect the 30,000 pounds of cannabis flower of production annually. On-site consumption is allowed. Allowed products include edible products and lower potency hemp edibles that can be consumed on-site. A designated area must be separate and distinct with its own entrance for an on-site consumption area. Products must follow testing and packaging and labeling under state law. Food and drinks may not be sold if local laws are followed. And visibility, consumption must not be visible from the outside of the premises. For the retail endorsement, again, this license is capped and applications will be placed into a lottery. This means there's no guarantee. However, this means that the potential resale value of such a license, because it requires a lottery to obtain, will be a lot higher than a microbusiness license, which is effectively uncapped. For more resources, you can join us at CannDelta.com. We've got a series of YouTube videos and other masterclasses in this series, many more to come. Our next masterclass, we're going to be inviting our friends at Cova Software to speak to point of sale implementation. It's important in track and trace seed to sale software. I'm your host, Dr. Lucas McCann. We're going to head over to the live question and answer period. in just a moment. But before we do, be sure to check us out at the Minneapolis Convention Center. We're at booth 105 for Lucky Leaf, happening Feb 28th and March 1st. I myself, I'll personally be there at the booth, handing out flyers, talking to prospective license owners about what the industry is going to look like in Minnesota, something we're very excited about. And if you have any questions at all about anything you've seen, you'd like to chat with someone who's a consultant and figure out if opening up a micro, a meso, or any of these other licenses might be right for you, get in touch with us. We're very friendly. We'd love to chat with you. You can reach us at the phone number on the website. You can go to our website and fill out a form. 1-877-274-6777 is our toll-free number. You can reach us anywhere in the world with that number. We'd love to chat with you. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll head over to our question and answer period in just a moment. I'm going to head over to my office. Stay tuned and drop your questions into the chat. We'll get to them in just a moment.